Thank you, everybody. All right, Ed, sorry about that.
So those of you may recall that I did the similar tap dance a month ago on a much different subject. That was more let's have some fun operating radios, and this is a little bit more of the technology and what makes the radio work and what's the newest SDR stuff that's coming along. It's sort of revolutionizing how radios are built. So please do pipe up. I may, to the people that are here, I may point at the screen. Well, I know that doesn't make it to those on the internet. So if I point at something, say, see that little box there? And you guys at home say, what are you talking about? Ask me and I'll describe what I'm pointing at. Those are just a couple pictures to warm up your appetite. We'll approach it a little more slowly. So this is the first sampling radio that I'm aware of. And it goes back to the 40s, maybe earlier than that. Sometimes called a crystal radio, because back in those days, a diode, a solid state diode, was called a crystal. And but it's still the same diode symbol up there. So there was some sort of antenna, a long wire or something, and a little bit of front end stuff. And if you go shopping for crystal radio at multiple websites, you'll find some that have more pre-selector stuff on them and some that have virtually nothing. When I was a kid, rolling up my newspapers to go out on my newspaper route, I had the crystal radio in the basement, and I could get one station because it was absolutely the strongest station in the whole band, and everything else was swamped out. So it wasn't much of a radio, but anyhow, it demonstrates a function. If this is a modulated AM signal, you know, the carrier is this high frequency thing going up and down and up and down and up and down, the carrier frequency. And that thing is modulated by the audio. And so it gets bigger and gets smaller according to the voice or the music or whatever it is that's being played. So the diode wipes out the bottom half and you're only looking at the upper half. The capacitor holds the charge for whatever this period is. And the resistor bleeds off that charge. So what you're left with is the dark line, which is, it's got a sawtooth on it, but fundamentally it's following the modulation that's on the this AM signal. And that's a reasonably accurate picture of a crystal radio as I knew it way back when. And you can still buy a kit for $40 or something online. Of course, we then have an argument about when is AM radio going to go away, and that's a different subject. This is a modern traditional heterodyne receiver. The whole purpose, the magic occurs here with local oscillator and mixer. So the RF floating around in the air comes in over here, may get amplified once or twice to make it stronger signal. Then that RF frequency signal is mixed with a local oscillator, which is at almost the same frequency. And next slide will explain it more. fundamentally, when you mix two signals together, you get the difference in the sum as the output. So what we're interested in is the difference. If your desired signal is at 16 megahertz and your local oscillator is at 16 megahertz and 1 kilohertz, you're get a 1 kilohertz signal out. And these filters knock out all the other stuff you're not interested in. Then it gets amplified and demodulated and audio amplifier. This is what radio's been built for the last 30, 40, 50 years. If you have your ham radio is more than 10 years old, this is what's inside the box. So this, by the way, I stole all the graphics in here. I stole from the ARRL handbook. I encourage you to buy one. It doesn't have to be the latest, but it's a good book. So all of this illustrates what I just said. Your RF signal coming in, and this is your local oscillator. Then you're going to get the desired signal downshifted to something much lower. An IF frequency is what it's referred to. And a bunch of other things that you're going to filter out so they don't gummy up your works and make noise where you don't want noise. So the different signal is the one that's always wanted. The sum is kind of, it's there, but you have no use for it. So you filter it out. One of the points of this, if you got a 5-band radio or 7-band radio, whatever it is, you want to bring them all down to the same intermediate frequency. So whether you're 20 megahertz or 3 megahertz, you want to bring them all to the same frequency. So the rest of the radio is common for all bands. And, you know, it would be ridiculously expensive, big and ugly to try and do that each and every band. And this is what I'm saying, do the filtering and amplifying once for all bands. Heterodyne is a word that's used a lot, and I'll have a definition of that in a minute. What becomes a super heterodyne is when there's more than one down conversion. That radio guys have to deal with a lot of details. And sometimes they find it to their convenience and fewer parts to have 2 IF frequencies, to down convert to 1, do some processing and down convert again to the final frequency. Old time radio designers fiddled around what was the proper IF frequencies, because if you picked wrong, some of these signals would end up in your desired bands. And the old timers would refer to those as birdies. And because you'd be tuning along, listening to real stations, and all of a sudden you hit this very loud birdie. One of these, sums would come through loud, and it wasn't good. So what's the, why weren't we happy with those super heterodyne or heterodyne receiver and all this analog stuff? First of all, there was a lot of circuitry for each kind of modulation, whether it was AM, FM, frequency shift keying, or one of a dozen other modulation techniques. You'd have a big blob of circuitry for each one of those. Second of all, it's not frequency agile. We'll talk more about that later. But if you go on some of the groups.io, you'll see some guy post a question that says, I got this old Heathkit thing, and I don't care about 15 meters. I want to be on 12 meters. How do I move it? And somebody will give a long-winded answer, says it's really hard. You got to change a whole lot of parts to move it to a different frequency. Probably most interesting, most important is filtering. Analog filtering is very broad. You would like to say it's this nice square wave, you know, that you can narrow it down, but you can't. These are three of the common filters that you'll find written up in handbooks and so on. You know, that one is pretty terrible. It's gradually ramps off. If your desired frequency is there, something over here is still going to come through pretty loud. This is a better one called two of them, Chebyshев and Butterworth. No, it's not the, you know, Mrs. Butterworth buttering your pancakes. It's a different Butterworth. Anyhow, same deal. It's more vertical, but it's still pretty sloppy. So filtering is not that good. If you had an old radio and you want to just red hot DXs at this frequency, but somebody running a kilowatt is 5 or 10 kilohertz away, tough luck. You're not going to hear anything. Compared to the ideal that you learn in a textbook or college class or something, this nice simple rectangle, it would be your filter, 0 dB outside that rectangle and 100 dB within the rectangle. There's been other things called crystal filters. They're quite a bit more expensive and more effective, but still not all that wonderful. So this is the first slide to talk about digital stuff. Digital stuff, as you would expect, is in computers and other electronic things. Mostly, I guess most of us would think of it as in computers. But the magic that's used in digital radios, or SDRs as they get called, is the incoming signal is converted through a analog to digital converter, AOC. No, that's not the loudmouth that's in Congress. It's a different AOC. Yeah. So anyhow, it's converted to digital. There's some magic that happens inside this rectangle to do something very useful. And then it's reconverted from digital to analog and goes out. So that would be like antenna over here and speaker over there. So this is a very simplistic model, not very flexible. But one place you'll see this kind of thing is these companies that have marketed things called digital audio filters. That you plug this thing into the microphone jack of your conventional radio over there on the left side. It gets converted to digital, and some blob of digital logic inside this little plastic box does something useful to make it more clear, to eliminate a certain amount of noise or other bad things, convert it back to audio and ship it out to your headphones or your speaker. The problem with those boxes, they have value and sometimes they work, but most of the damage to your signal has been done before it gets to audio. You know, whether it's at the RF level or the IF level, or so by the time it gets over here to the input, it's already screwed up, and you don't have the power to unscrew it. You know, it's whatever distortion is there, you cannot drive that distortion out of there just with some audio stuff. But they sell these things, and some guys swear by them, and sometimes they work, and sometimes nothing much good happens.
Sometimes they just make up for our hearing aids.
Yeah. So now this is a little bit more into analog to digital conversion. This is that thing there. Wrong line. So if this is an incoming signal and it goes, you want to convert it into digital, that's an analog signal, sine wave of some frequency. What the digital thing will do is sample that and produce an output voltage that roughly tracks the shape of that original wave. Now, what makes this a novelty versus really good is how fast this thing can convert. If it can sample, if this whatever frequency F up here, if this is a 1000 F, that's pretty good. These little square wave steps will be pretty invisible. The steps will be so small that you really can't tell that it happened. But to do that requires your converter to be fast and high resolution, which historically has meant more money because there's more guts inside that chip and more wires coming out of it. You know, if you're going to sample at 1/4 or 4 times this frequency, you're going to need 4 wires come out of that thing for 4 bits. That's not even right, was it? 2 bits. 2 bits of output because you're only at 4 levels that you're sampling or you're producing. But if you're going to produce a high resolution copy of that, you're going to need a wider word of output to carry all those values. And you're going to need it to be really fast so that it samples not 4 times per input wave, but hundreds or thousands of times. And doing, the digital analog is exactly the opposite, but equally demanding. You're going to have to take a long, 8, 10, 12 bits of input and turn that into an analog output. And so it takes a lot of high-speed logic to do that. So that's, if you go back to the 1970s or so, mostly in military stuff, this stuff existed. You could buy the parts out of the parts catalog, but it wasn't fast, it wasn't high resolution, and the signal that came out was pretty distorted. But if you had a demanding application like radar, or that's what you had to do. You had to take the signal, feed it into a bunch of computer stuff, have it munched up and spit out at very, very fast rates. So the guy's aiming the gun or whatever it is he's doing gets exactly real-time accurate information. So over to, this stuff was used in some computer boards that I worked on in the late 70s, early 80s. So the first thing, the top bullet is just conventional logic. You have a bunch of chips, OR gates, AND gates, NAND gates, flip-flops, inverters, and you wired it up and you got a single function out after you wired up a big board full of logic. Not very practical, certainly not flexible. Along came the next generation, programmable gate arrays. This is a chip that was packed with hundreds, maybe thousands of nanogates, mostly inverters, that you could plug the chip into this programmer thing and blow some fuses that would disconnect some leads and leave other leads intact, producing the custom combinatorial array or functions that you wanted. Those things were at a low scale in the 80s, and mostly you program them on this data IO programmer. But in the last 10 years, they've gotten so dense, so many functions that field programming isn't really practical anymore, and it's factory programming. But it is amazing the networks they can produce on a single chip by programming it, by blowing some connections and leaving other connections intact. So the F there stands for field programmable, and they're still selling those parts. A lot of them are factory programmable. Then the last one here is take all that combinatorial stuff and add a bunch of flip-flops and other sequential stuff to it that go through this network, and you produce this very useful signal, but you want to store it for a cycle or 2 or 3 or 4 to affect what's done in the next cycle and the next cycle. So it had to be stored in some registers. And so, that logic was added. And it's quite all of that means that you can do these really complicated things in a $1,000 radio or even less in a very tiny amount of space. So all thing is called digital signal processing, and it uses the functions I described. ASIC, ASIC, application specific integrated circuit, field programmable gate arrays and processors. You think of your average PC user or computer user thinks, you strike a key on a keyboard and that goes in and gets munched up and something else gets spit out at human speeds. But for these kind of jobs, you need to have 1,000,000 times faster than human speed. So that's where all this fancy, complicated stuff comes to be. So it's not entirely new. Back in the 80s, I forget who it was, but somebody came out with the Ethernet chip. This was some sort of breakthrough. There'd always been peripheral controller chips. Most of them were really simple-minded, serial to parallel converters, and they'd cause an interrupt and software would wake up and look at the data that came in and say, oh, that was an A. Isn't that interesting? A means this, and that means update a database or put something on a screen or something. Ethernet, even in the 80s, was much faster than any computer could keep up with. So you needed it all done in hardware. So the software would load in a string of buffer addresses into the chip and say, when data arrives, put it in these buffers. And the software's job was continue to supply that list of buffers and keep the chip busy. If you didn't supply enough buffers, the chip would stop, and magic of Ethernet, those packets would be retransmitted a little bit later and life would go on. But this was an example of computer stuff that controlled a data path that was running at a very fast speed. And that's back in the 80s. So it's not all new, but the things we're trying to do, the speeds we're trying to achieve is new. So these are the same pictures I think was on the opening slide. there's really, if you looked at your conventional analog radio, you would find a whole big board full of coils and capacitors making tuned circuits for each and every band. You don't need that you just convert it to digital, let the computer figure it out. So this is, you could buy this for $100 and some. In fact, I've got one. It doesn't do much except digitize the input stream and pass it off to your personal computer on a USB cable. So the upper picture is the conventional analog radio, and the lower picture is a more sophisticated SDR. Pick up on that word IQ, and no, it's not how smart you are. I'll talk about that in a minute. There's phase shifting. So I and Q, in phase and quadrature, fancy words to say you take the incoming signal, and there's the original version. You run it through a little bit of circuitry to delay it by 90 degrees, quarter wave. So you got two signals. And if you can follow your way through some really complicated mathematics, I typically get lost about halfway through. If you have those two signals, you can do all kinds of magic for detection and filtering and all that. So you'll see that term scattered about any literature. It's talking about SDRs. And it's complicated, but it's there. So this is my favorite radio at home, my Yaesu FTDX10. And they hype it as an SDR radio. Well, it's sort of an SDR radio. I thumbed my way through the manual looking at what exactly SDR stuff it does. And the main functions of modulating, demodulating, filtering and all that is still conventional, old style analog radio stuff. But they do in parallel drive an SDR chain. And in the digitized chain, they can do a lot of magic, much better filtering. Remember that analog filters are really sloppy, where digital filters can be really sharp. So they got multiple forms of filtering, digital noise reduction. I was a little disappointed. I thought I would open this manual and see it chock full of really cool digital stuff. I only found a smattering of it. More to come, though. It's going to become more and more pervasive and more cost effective. Another cheap radio you can buy is the SDR Play. That's that little plastic box right there. And antenna goes in one and USB comes out the other. And it comes with this amazing software that will demodulate to 50 different forms of modulation, 50 different forms of filtering. It goes on and on and on. I usually end up frustrated. I can't quite find the combination that I need. Like a lot of foreign products, the documentation sucks. So, go scrounging through the internet trying to find somebody who will explain it to you and not call you stupid in the process. That's not always easy, especially the stupid part. This is the main, this is that little thing up in the top left, and this is the next one over. So here's where you tune the thing. There's where you can select the modulation form, AM, FM, CW, double sidebands, lower upper sideband. And within FM mode, you got a bunch more modes. It's really pretty amazing if you can be patient enough to find the right combination of things. And it's totally frequency agile. You can hook up an antenna to any band you want. I've run this thing on 2 meters and 440 and a few lower frequencies, and it's frequency agnostic. It doesn't care because nothing inside that little plastic box filters anything. It just converts it to digital and passes it off to the computer. So you don't have to spend $10,000 to play with this stuff. This thing, I don't know what it was, close to 200, I think. So the point is that ham radio is not driving this technology. Shed it here, the original ham founders who thought they knew everything and could teach it. It's driven by the combination of the computer geeks and the radio guys and a lot of military stuff. So an easy example is a cell phone. You'll hear about AT&T paid umpteen million to buy this frequency band for 5G or Verizon or somebody bought this other band for 5G. And they paid $100 million or something. So that means that every carrier is on a different frequency or different brand, and they move around within that band because that's how cell phones work. But the last thing you want to do if you're building cell phones is have a warehouse full of phones that work on the AT&T bands and a different warehouse full of phones that work on the Verizon frequencies. You want to build one that's frequency agile or frequency agnostic. And that's one of the things that this digital stuff gets you. So I don't know when exactly it happened, but within the last 10 years, the guts inside your cell phone became much different technology than it was. Medical imaging is a lot like military radar, that they want to see things in real time. If you're having this surgeon replace a valve in your heart, you don't want him holding a 2-week-old X-ray up to the light and saying, yeah, a little to the right, up a little bit more. You want him guided in absolute real time, that they've got this thing taking pictures of your chest and seeing the probe that they've run up through your belly to get to your chest. And, it tells them absolutely nudge it a little bit more, back it up a little bit. It's all digital magic because it couldn't be done with analog stuff. And the same is true with military radars. And, it's nothing like Top Gun with, Maverick hitting the controls to move this way or that way. It's all computer magic. And ham radio is just along for the ride. So why do I care about this stuff, and why might you care about this stuff? I hope you do care, at least enough to be polite. I'm not a radio builder. I understand a fair amount, but getting down to the details of putting together a radio is a modern radio is a daunting task that's pretty much beyond even the most expert ham radio operator. So when I buy a radio or read an advertisement or somebody's claim about the new whiz bang radio they produced, it's full of buzzwords, and I like to know enough to be able to filter my way through some of those buzzwords. There's bunch of questions in the extra exam. If you want to get your extra license, you got to be able to answer those questions. Even if it sounds like a really crass reason to learn it, but true. You may be a really just generally curious person, want to keep up with technology. It is interesting to look at the mathematics. I mean, for years, we've been looking at this intuitive model of, in comes your RF and it mixes with a local oscillator, and out comes the sum and the difference, and you filter out the sum and look at the difference. That's common sense logic, but behind that common sense logic is a whole bunch of math. If you're fancy yourself to be somewhat of a math guy, Don's agreeing vehemently exactly what he wants to do. Let's hear it for Don and his search for best mathematics. We're done.
Yeah, right.
Anyhow, so even if you fail all those tests and you're not interested, you can still buy a low-end one and play with it and see some of the magic that can be done. You don't have to break the bank and buy a $5,000 radio to play with it a little bit. And I expect over the next 10 years, it's going to become more and more and more dominant. And my pretty good radio that I bought a few years ago is mostly analog and some digital. I think that balance will be different in 5-10 years. It'll be mostly digital and a little bit analog. Yes, sir.
So what do you consider a hybrid transceiver?
Hybrid transceivers contains both traditional analog circuitry, local isolators and mixers and filters and all that stuff, plus a blob of digital logic that's typically doing some additional filtering or decoding or noise blanking, things like that.
So like you have on the front end some of the analog or traditional processing going on, and then that's fed into the SDR stuff, the digital.
Yeah, I mean,
I
think it's different where it taps in. You can connect up the digital stuff right at the front end, or this is where the radio guys earn their money. They can say, for these good and valid reasons, we get a better result if we tap in at the IF level. So,
okay.
Well, yeah, I would think that, at the IF level, you don't need super fast, analog to digital conversion and then processing. You can bring it down to a lower frequency. You can have relatively slower.
I think that's right.
Digital.
And go ahead.
I mean, I would expect that some of these high-end radios, like you said, we're just doing that right off the antenna, or the first RF amplifier, off the antenna without modulating it, without mixing it.
Yeah.
Point of reference. The old-fashioned color signal on the TVs was a QNR signal. Its bandwidth was around 300 kc, and that's where you got your red, green, green. Being a mathematician, I can tell you 59% green, 30% red, and 11% blue. And that's the combination to get your color signal.
Yeah, I mean,
That's been around since 1950.
TV is one example of multiple signals put on one carrier, and it has to be disassembled in some sense. Analog or audio part and some bit of video part, and that happens a lot in modern radios these days. There's multiple signals on one carrier. Yes, sir.
Sorry, I have so many questions. I haven't done much reading, but the reading I have done is really just advertisements for the new radios. And I seem to only see SDR receivers. Is there any, is SDR also the reverse on transmit?
Yeah, it does. It's
okay.
You follow the same reasoning. Now, one gotcha that I haven't found a solution for, but a transmitter, let's say you got a 100-watt radio, and you're gonna put out a 100-watt signal, you're not gonna put a computer in that signal line and look at a 1,000-volt transmit signal and do some computer magic on it. So it seems to me SDR transmitter is going to have conventional filters at the output level, so you can imagine that the signal is clean and only has the desired frequency in it, not a whole bunch of other stuff. So it's not as, you lose the advantage of no filters. Maybe somebody solved that problem. I couldn't find an answer. So that, if you looked at handbooks over the years, 10 years ago, there'd be a couple paragraphs about digital junk. Sort of these Fruit Loops that want to fool around with computer crap. But now it's all pervasive in there. And it's not isolated, and there's not like chapter about SDR and chapter about analog radios. We're going to talk about filters, and here's how you do it digital, and here's how you do it analog. Next subject, here's how you do the frequency control. Here's how you do it with the digital radio, here's how you do it with the analog radio. It's little sections scattered out throughout the pages. So if you just want to read SDR stuff, it's a little harder, but if you really want to just understand both ways, and what they're doing is pretty good. Anybody have any SDR stuff at home?
I got a couple of RS or was it RSP plays? They're just receivers,
Right.
and then the 7300 is basically SDR, isn't it?
I don't know.
They call it SDR.
I haven't studied it, but it's what, a 5-year-old radio that would be pretty advanced to.
The biggest ones are the Flex right now.
Yeah, Flex is. They've been beating the SDR drum for as long as I'm aware that their radios are almost all SDR stuff.
I would think anything that has a waterfall display would have to be an SDR.
Yeah, well, so I think I skipped over that topic, but my FTDX10 has a waterfall display. You can set it to so many kilohertz or megahertz wide as you want it. And that's all done in digital. There are ways to do it in analog.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because my Kenwood,
His kid was doing it in the 1960s or something. You buy this thing that looked like an oscilloscope and hook it up to a certain spot in your radio and up you were.
my QMX Plus, I was telling you about that, is SDR, the signal processor, or that, whatever, those buzzwords for the receiver side.
Yeah, I read some of his stuff, and for a little one-man operation, it's not really advanced stuff in his.
Yeah,
The Hans Woodruff.
yeah,
It is.
on summer.
His little, whatever it is, $100 kit.
125, yeah, 125, yeah.
He's got a lot of advanced concepts in there.
Yeah. And I haven't used it a lot yet. I just, finished it. But so I haven't done a lot of comparison, but I did a little comparison between my old Kenwood TS570 and the receive is a lot better
on
that QMX Plus. Yeah, it's beautiful.
That's what we've been talking about is the filters are these nice little square things, not these sloppy slopes.
Yeah. And then they also say you can't work them if you can't hear them.
You'd have an argument with some guys that I've seen on pile-ups that they're obviously not hearing anything, but they're simply never not listening.
Yeah.
All right, that's what I have.
Well, very good. Thank you. Yeah, you didn't get anything wrong this time.
Any questions online? Are we still there online? All right. Stop sharing, or is there any? Okay, good. All right. Anybody got any questions for Ed? Online? Nobody? What's this gonna cost me? Okay. We got close out of this then. Well, that was loud. Well, thanks everybody for showing up tonight. Do appreciate it. Again, keep an eye on the website. Keep an eye on the newsletters. If you know somebody that'd like to give a presentation, please do so. I know we've got one probably scheduled for next month already. Steve's trying to do his next month if he's in town, so we'll see. But we are looking for ideas, things like that. I also have a few slots open. On the board wise, most of them are non-voting positions, but we're looking for help on committees and things like that. So if you're interested, let me know. And everybody, I appreciate it. You're keeping the club active. It takes a village to run a club. It's not an individual job. So I appreciate all the help from everybody that I'm getting. And if you know anybody that would like to be part of this fun group, bring them along. See what we have to offer. They don't have to join right away or join at all. Just come on and have fun with us. Remember the Tuesday night Hamlin net, Thursday night Drag Shoe net. We're also looking for net controllers for those nets. So if you're interested in doing that, please join in. And then the net on the 22nd of every month for VOTA, Veterans on the Air. Welcome to participate in that. And that was one thing I was going to bring up. I have a meeting here before too long. I'm trying to work with the Veterans Community Project out here in Longmont that's got the tiny houses over behind Target, and work with them to see if we can maybe get I'd really like to get a radio and an antenna over there for the veterans and get them on the air as well. So I'm talking with them to see what we can do to make that happen. Maybe get some vets on the air, and then they can help with voting and also help keep our readers busy and things like that. So I'm meeting with them here for the next couple of weeks, or bring up the committee to find out if it's something they'd like to see happen. There's potential there. That would probably entail a radio and a antenna. Then they have a community center over there. They probably just keep the station and all join as a band or whatever. So we'll see what happens there. So there's a lot of things that we're planning, trying to do, and keep active and get more people involved. I know parades and events like that will be coming up soon in spring and summer. So Steve's done a good job of getting us back involved with the city of Longmont, so they'll keep us informed of what they needed for that. Other than that, does anybody have anything else? Any questions, concerns, comments?
On the website, you can sign up for.
Yeah, on the website, you can sign up to, actually on the website, you can sign up to volunteer for whatever event we have going, because I post them all out there. You want to be a net controller? Sign up. You want to help out LARC Fest? I got it all broken out into different sections of what you want to do. Things like that. So please use that. It's a good way to help know what's going on, things like that. And if you have suggestions for the website, trust me, I will not be offended. Please let me know. I've already broken it twice, I think, in the last 3 months. So we are trying to improve the website, trying to add some automation, things like that. Any suggestions, please let me know. Yes, Steve, Bob, did you have a question?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Hey, Chuck, did you want to mention your survey you did?
Oh, yes. I sent out a survey in the last newsletters. Please fill it out. Let us know what you think. Feedback is great. And the more we know, the better off we are. So please let me know. We're not perfect by any means, right? So any ideas, suggestions, bring it on. There's no wrong suggestion or anything like that. There's some things we may not be able to do, whether it's time, money, whatever the case may be. There's other things we may do plenty of, but we need the ideas. So keep them coming. And then also something else. Oh, if you're interested, I believe I haven't heard a launch date yet. For those of you who like SoScan TV, FRAM, which is the private astronauts that are going over the poles.
So they'll be going to 90 degrees, 90 degrees over the post. We'll be doing slow scan TV. In 3 or 4 days, they'll be in orbit. They're doing sections of slow scan TVs. They're doing this for schools as projects, but as amateur radio operators, if you're interested, might be a lot of fun to see what you can get and piece together the pictures. I believe it's 4 or 5 day mission, and there's 4 of them, and I believe 3 are hand radio operators, the other ones maybe not. But keep an eye out for that. It's called Fram to Ham. Check it out online. I'm not sure of the orbit and the footprint. I know they tested with ISS doing the same concept, and it worked out fairly well. So I think they're going to have a pretty good footprint over at least the States when they come over, from my understanding, since most of them are
Those
citizens.
satellites they move east
See,
to west.
this is not moving. This is an actual 90 degrees over both poles continuously.
But I think it moves east to west,
Oh, is it east to west?
west to east, I'm not sure which, but that's,
So like in this,
I mean, it's the same as all the other satellites.
but it's still,
To get them to stay in a fixed orbit is much more difficult, so.
requires more propulsion and weight and everything else. But either way, they're doing this, and keep an eye out for it and try it out if you're interested in that kind of stuff and things like that. Not repeat or anything, but just slow scan TV down. Okay.
So if anybody out there's got some ideas for presentations, whether they're homegrown or you want to go find some national expert on some subject, either can work.
Is it your
We
April?
we just need those ideas, trying to look for things that more people are interested in.
Is your April tickets at the slot?
Yeah, I think April, we got somebody.
About May.
May right now? No, I don't think so. Either April or May it's gonna be filled. I'm not sure which one. It all depends on timing and work.
You want me to do the thing on Apollo 13?
You're more than welcome to, yeah. So you know, let me
Because I
know.
was there.
Yeah, let me know. You definitely do that.
I just like to put in a plug for the net control stuff, especially the Tuesday night. I mean, being net control is so easy. It's all you got to do is read from the script, and then
If Don can
type,
do it, anybody can.
and then exactly, that's for sure. And then just type as people call in. Brian does all. Oh, he's gone. Brian does all the heavy lifting. He does the education part. So it's easy.
And it's a good way to get comfortable doing that control, because if you're doing a parade, there's a little bit more stress there. You're doing something like that. If you get involved in Aries, a lot more stress there, but at least it helps get you prepared, get on the radio talking, things like that.
Yeah.
Oh, the other thing is keep an ear out. I'm still testing. I think it's working again. Our repeaters are now on Broadcastify. So that's
What's that?
Broadcastify is an online where you can listen live. It's like a 30, 60 live.
So it's broadcast stations and
Yeah.
public safety stations and a gazillion
Police,
stations.
fire, and all that. So I hooked it up. I'm running it through my home, through my own system. But give it a listen and tell me what you think. Part of the reason I did is Tim, who does the VODA, had asked for that so that more veterans could hear the nets. When we try to get a chance to participate at some point and kind of get an idea of what happens and what they do. So I went ahead and got on Broadcastify, and LARC is on there. So please check it out and let me know what you think. I'm not always listening to my radio, so I don't know what it sounds like. So if it's crappy, let me know. If it's great, that's good too.
So the delay is long enough
It's like 60 seconds almost, I think.
that if you're wondering if your audio sounds good or bad,
I think
you can talk for a few seconds and then hang out for a minute or so, and then you'll hear yourself. And you can conclude whether the radio sounds pretty good or sounds
Well,
terrible.
it's good, yeah, it's good for your own personal radio checks, it really is. So, I do have, and it should be quicker than that because I got rid of Comcast, I have fiber now. 2 gigs up, 2 gig down. Love it.
Sweet.
All right, anybody got anything else? Well, thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your evening. We will see everybody April 5th, the Ham Fest. Yes,
Yes. April 4th at the setup.
April 4th is set up. Hope to see you all there and come out and join us. And if you're not working, at least come out and check out the show.
It's April 6th, set up, is that what you
Shut
said?
up.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great evening.
Thanks, Chuck.
Good evening, everyone.
Well, sure, go there.
If you don't know me, you should. I'm KZRTP Chuck, the club president for Longmont Amateur Radio Club. So welcome to tonight's general meeting. We appreciate you attending. I got that little one, yeah. Make sure you can see. Presentation should be good. Learn a lot. That's a good teacher. Couple announcements. It has been a crazy year this year. It's already March. We've done a lot of events. We've done a lot of stuff. This group over here is finishing building stuff for antenna kits that we're going to sell at the LARC Fest on April 4th or 5th. Date. So we will be selling tape measure Yagis. Tell your friends and family about it. Also tell them if they want a table, sign up. There's still some tables available. I think I want to say at least 10, if not more left that I want to get sold and try to sell us out. I think I made another sale today. I'm waiting for them to sign up online. There was one that was online that sold, so they're going fast. Almost all of the free club tables are taken by clubs from Colorado.
Nice.
So that should be a good portion of the show and should be helpful. For those of you who don't know, the show's gonna be a little bit different. We're not gonna have in-person forum speakers. We are gonna have YouTubers. It's gonna be Ask an Elmer YouTuber. We've got 5 of them. They all have channels with 10 to 50,000 people a piece on there, so it should be really good. I gotta verify the names because I think some of them may bail on me, but hopefully they'll all be there. There's 5 of them.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt. If you could also set their names
Yeah.
and if they
It's actually on the website.
if you have links.
It's on the website as well.
Okay, all right, because I want to do a little research if I'm gonna moderate.
Sure. That'd be great. But I'll send you the information after the confirmation. When somebody knows, we can.
Okay, thanks.
We're also gonna have a fox hunt this year at the Hamfest. So if you have little ones or anybody that would like to come out and try that out, it should be a lot of fun as well. And to get on the air station. So get people on the air for the first time. The other thing, just so you know, is been dealing with a lot of people that do GMRS last month or so. So one of the things, I invited Front Range GMRS to attend as well. So they're gonna be there and get a table.
What did GR stand for?
General Mobile Radio Service.
Okay.
And basically, you don't need a license. Well, you do have to have a license. It's $35, but no testing. But it gets you on the air, and it's, I think, 5 or 6 frequencies on UHF, and that's all they get.
So it's modern version of CB, except it's FM instead of AM.
Right.
And not all the stupid stuff of CB hasn't get through there.
Yeah, all good, buddy.
Well, the other good thing about GMRS and the way I'm remarketing this a little bit, and this is how I talked to the GMRS group too, is I invited them, I said, you know what? A lot of people don't want to become a ham right away. That's fine. Get into GMRS, get them on the air, get them interested, and then when they want to do satellites, they want to do HF, they want to do whatever, that requires a ham license. Guess what? They already been on there, they like it. Usually comes the marketing thing for the hobby. So we're gonna see how that goes.
Good, yeah.
And 80% of the Front Range GMRS group are already hams. They've got repeaters all over the place. Of course, they can't make their repeaters like we can. That's the other caveat. At one point they could, but that got changed, the FCC rules. So, I'm not saying go out and get GMRS. I'm just saying I'm inviting them and we're gonna try to help market amateur radio or radio in general as a hobby. And I've been working on that.
So a lot of people in, the north end of the state, they live out in the weeds, they're an hour drive to the city. So if they have fires or medical emergencies or something, it's their little community. It's gotta be the first responders. So the big boys may show up in an hour or two, but right away, it's your neighbor.
And the other good thing is I've got, like, for example, and this is how I'm kind of marketing radio in general. I got a gentleman at work, he's got 2 younger kids, they're homeschooled. I said, I've been trying to get him to get his ham ticket. I said, okay, you know what? How about I reapproach this? I told him, I said, for $35 and no testing, go get your GMRS. Make your kids walk down the street or the park. Don't let them take a cell phone. Make them take a radio. And then start talking to them that way. Get them on the air, get them interested, and then eventually they're going to want to probably hopefully do more, and then they'll get into the amateur radio hobby. So I'm kind of using this kind of a hopefully getting people more involved. And I don't know, our repeater we need to use more. Hit everybody in the club. Get on the repeaters. Try to make them better. They are better. Get on them. Test them. Try to break them, please. I just been listening to Loveland's repeater. Was it 700 up there? And I've heard somebody this morning and this afternoon. So their repeaters are getting used. So hopefully maybe we get more people to use ours as well. Okay. So a lot of new things for the Hamfest this year. So if you have not volunteered and you can give some cycles to help out, it would be appreciated. Sign up online. There's a sign up sheet. There's slots for different things to be done. And it would be appreciated, your help.
Friday afternoon setup.
Saturday all day. Especially with the GOGA station. I haven't signed up for that yet. Let me think, what else we got going on? Start thinking about summer field day. We've already got the park reserved out here. It's going to be the 4th Saturday in June, which I think there's only 4 this year. One year it was 5 and we all got confused. But it's going to be the 4th Saturday in June, all day. We'll start about 9 o'clock and run until about noon, 1 o'clock. Well, noon, we stop and then break down. So we need people to help plan it, what antennas we're going to put up, what radios we want to use, things like that. Speaking of radios, if anybody knows anybody that would like to purchase a Yaesu 5000, what was it? FT 5000 DX radio, 200 watts, very high end. It was a donation to the club from a silent key. We're looking to sell it. The board has approved for me to go ahead and sell it since we probably won't do anything like that. And then we're going to be building some more smaller portable Go boxes. Instead of lugging around the 7300 everywhere, we're going to build a 891 Go box. That's going to be ready to go. Battery, antenna, radio. Tuner, you're good. Pick it up, take it, and walk out. We're going to be building a satellite Go box. We built a DMR Go box already for the club. Got to get documentation for that. So keep an eye out for that because that'll be a Saturday afternoon event that we'll put this stuff together, testing and things like that. So those will be available to club members to check out. And as a reminder, that's kind of where I'm kind of rotating the club a little bit from events that are specific to club members. We're still going to have a couple of those, but not as many, into more of a come join us, try before you buy. It's available to you. Go use it. Your club's offering you this equipment, just go try it. Okay. So the boxes that we use at Summerfield Day will be available for checkout after Summerfield Day, this fall and spring. If you like to play with them. Hopefully get some more antennas that you can check out and try, build. So I'm trying to get more equipment, things like that, and that's where that money's going to be turned over into, just so everybody knows. Events, we're going to pretty much open to everybody this year. So if they sign up as the website, subscribe to it, everybody to events. I said the more the merrier. That includes Christmas party, so I'm looking for somebody to help with that as well. That'll be here before too long, before we know it. So we got a lot of things going on, and just keep an eye on the calendar. And if you're interested in helping with anything, please do. If you have an idea for something, let me know. I will tell you that CU Boulder Amateur Radio Club, thank you. We donated a ICOM 7100 to them that was donated to us, and we built them a Go box this weekend. They are excited to get on the air. They can now take it portable. They can go in the fields at CU and go play with it. We went out to one of the fields over by the engineering building, tested it out, and Charlie, the president, made 2 contacts with no tuner at all on it.
So does the university give them a little room for a
Yes.
radio room?
Yeah, they have a radio room. They're getting ready to put a base station in as well at some point. They disconnected all their antennas. It's in the same place where they used to track satellites, but they don't track any of the satellites anymore. So they it's a mess, and Charlie's trying to help fix it. LARC donated the battery and the box. LARC donated a charger for the battery, the radio itself, and all the stuff that came with it. And we had a lot of fun putting it together, taking the Pelican case or the Harbor Freight Pelican case and pulling out the foam and putting everything in it. We got it all into one box. So very excited. They're looking to hopefully do more stuff with us. With that said, also, we have adopted them as a little brother, little sister, like we did Indian Peaks. So that's our second club that we've adopted to try to help out where we can. With that said, also, I'm looking for Elmers to join our Elmers email group. So if you're interested, let me know. There's about 7 to 8 of us right now. And we're looking for more people to help join with that and help answer questions and help people out. So if you're interested, let me know. We'll get you in that group and you'll get emails when they send to the Elmers. Oh, let's see. I had all kind, like I said, it's been a busy year so far, so I'm trying to get everything. Am I missing anything done?
No, I was gonna ask you a question about the CU thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you think they're gonna get into like the emergency communications practice like we do with parades and stuff, like CU events?
They possibly might. I don't know if they're gonna get that in depth with it. I know CU's been very strict about that because BARC doesn't do the digital TV anymore there.
Okay.
They do want to do more. And they want to get more people interested in CU. They're gonna have a table at LARC Fest.
Oh, cool.
Not all of them are gonna be there because someone will be chasing a balloon that Saturday, because I found out HSP Sciences is launching a balloon that day. And they have an experiment on it. So a couple of folks will be doing that. Deep Space Science will have a table with us this year. They've got some cool stuff coming up. They're looking to do, I think they're doing a Jupiter bounce. They're gonna try a Jupiter bounce. Yeah, kind of interesting. RF Ham is gonna be there. They have a couple of tables, so yeah, if you know anybody who wants a table, please come out. Should be a lot of fun. Lots of exhibitors, lots of things to do. Maybe there's anything else coming up between now and Summer Field Day. I think that's it for right now. So April is going to be our LARC event. Last weekend was the LARC event to help CU, and then I'll put something together for May. I'll give you time to think about it. Probably build the satellite go box in May. We've got a TH72 Kenwood that was donated for that. And then I'm trying to see, we'll probably purchase a Aero Yagi to go in there as well. So I'll have a nice Yagi in there as well.
So Tim was the full duplex version?
Mhm.
Is that-
That's why it's going in the go box because it's so much easier. That should be an easy go box to build, and then maybe we might build a small tape measure Yagi we throw in there as well. But something to think about. And then of course we'll do an 891 box when we get that purchase after we get the 5,000 sold, things like that. Get on the repeaters, as I said also. Try them out. Mark and Doug Sharp and Brian have done a lot of work on trying to get the repeaters and covering all of Longmont. So whatever help and feedback you should give us is appreciated, especially at VHF, because now we have it up higher and it's on more the northeast side of Longmont right now.
Yeah.
Well, for you,
It's awesome, baby.
it's a dream for you. But give it a try and keep testing it. Okay? Anybody got any questions? Any board members got anything? Last but not least, keep an eye on the website. Let me know your feedback, what you think of it, don't like, do like. It's always changing, hopefully for the better.